Hey guys, Nathan with Aft-Tek here, and today we will be installing this brand new Aft-Tek fiberglass hatch kit. So we just got in this Ranger 618 VS. What we will be covering in this video is how to install our brand new fiberglass hatches in this boat. So prior to getting this far, what we've done is completely gutted all the carpet out of the boat. This boat is a little unique and has some removable pods back here. And so we took those out. We took out all the carpet on the front, and then now we're ready to install hatches. So as we reuse all of the latches and the hinges, we actually remounted all the hinges back inside the boat after taking them off the factory hatch. We just put in several screws alongside these hinges, and then now we're going to move on to the next step with the double PSA applied. So we have our double-sided tape. We will be applying it back to this hinge right here. In your Aquatraction kit, installation kit, it comes with some primer. I always apply primer to these hinges just to ensure this double-sided tape works really, really well. So you can see how I applied this 3M double-sided tape. I went up towards the edge of the hinge. There's many reasons on why I do it this way, but just for simplicity's sake, just do it this way. So after we've applied 3M double-sided tape to all of the hinges, we are now just going to dry fit all the hatches and see how everything lines up. Alright, so we dry fit all of the hatches in there. They all look really good. There's some gaskets that we need to reinstall. With this older boat, they don't all have bulb seals, and so that's why I do sell additional bulb seal to ensure that everything does seal properly with even these older boats. So this is a replacement bulb seal that we just applied in this boat. So it basically straddles the flange on these older boats, and then we're then able to have an actual bulb seal on top. So this is the surface that the hatch actually rests on. It does not rest on the outside perimeter. It only rests on this to create it watertight. So we have this hatch here. It's a little low, as you can see. And so we did apply a bulb seal to it to ensure this is watertight. However, it's not thick enough. So we're going to be applying a bulb seal to the hatch itself. And I'll show you guys an easy trick to ensure you're applying this bulb seal to this hatch properly. So honestly, it's as simple as just taking some Windex. You can use water, you can use anything. Just wet it down. Now we're just going to take this hatch, slide it in place, push it down flat. There we go. We have a perfect ring. So what I would do now is just mark this out with something, such as a marker, and then we have our outline, and then we can apply our bulb seal to this hatch now. After we trace this out with a Sharpie marker, we want this to be on the inside of where we're putting this bulb seal now. So it'll be on this side of that line. We'll take some primer 94 and apply it to the hatch here, just to ensure everything is properly adhered to this hatch. Alright, so we have our bulb seal, and then we have our primer that we applied. We will now stick the bulb seal to this hatch here. There we go. Very level now. So after I have the hatches in the boat now, I always mark out which side is the hinge. So I'm just going to draw an arrow to the hinge side on all of these hatches. You can even mark out too where these hinges actually are. Now that we have our hinge marked, we are now going to apply primer to this face like we've already done, as you can see there. Alright, so we're ready now to install this hatch on this boat. So I've already taken the double-sided tape protective paper off. And so now what we're going to do is take this hatch, put it in this area, push it into place, and then it'll be completely secured enough to where we can open the hatch up and unscrew it from the boat. So we now have our hatch in place with the double-sided tape. We're just going to open it up now, unscrew those screws, and then we'll just walk over to the bench and rivet this hatch to the hinge, and then come back and install it into the boat. Now we took our 3/16" drill bit, and then we we drilled out every single hole, and now we're coming back with our 3/16 by 1/2 inch rivets and riveting everything in place. Now after we got the hinges installed on the hatches, all riveted in place, we are now going to set these hatches with a couple screws, kind of one on each side, and then we are going to start riveting the hatches to the boat. You can see here, got a couple screws in place. So the reason why we do this is we want to reuse the existing holes that are inside the boat. We don't want to make more holes if we don't have to. So that's why we use the double-sided tape to align everything. We're now going to take our drill bit with our extension, 3/16" bit, drill these out, and then put rivets in place. So I have my drill bit extension with my 3/16" drill bit on there. We're going to start drilling these out. So now that we have our rivets in, we're now going to take those 2 screws out, drill them out, and then put rivets in place. Just like that. Now I'm going to shut this completely flat, nice gaps. We're good to go to move on to the next hatch. Now you're just going to replicate that for all the hatches. After you get the hatches installed, now it's time to mark out the latch holes for the Aquatraction. So I'll show you guys exactly how we do that. We have our Aquatraction piece right here. And so what you do is you just line up all of the edges like you are going to install the Aquatraction. And then you just take a Sharpie marker that's included in the kit, mark it out, and then you have your latch hole location. We're going to take a 2.5 inch hole saw. Specifically for these latches, it's a 2.5 inch hole saw. And I normally just line it up right along that hole, pop it, and then you'll have your completed hatch with that hole. Now what we're going to do is only drill halfway through with the hole saw, and then we're going to open it up and we'll have our mark on where the hole is, the center of the hole, and then you'll finish off drilling from this side. The reason why we don't pop it all the way through is it gets really stringy on this side, so we want like the finished cut edge to be in the middle of the hatch versus on this back face. Now that we have everything aligned, we're just going to start drilling. I normally have a vacuum cleaner handy while this is cutting, just to reduce the amount of dust that is going to be thrown in the air. So we'll get the vacuum cleaner running, cut this out halfway through, and then finish off the rest of the way. So after we get done drilling, we have that, and we did not go all the way through. So now we're going to take the drill from this side and finish cutting this hole out. Alright, so we got the hole popped. Now we can easily just remove this insert piece, and then we are good to go to move on to the next hatch. You can see the material we use. So this is Space Age. It's a heavy duty core material, super rigid. You can see on the inside of it, it has 2 layers of fiberglass throughout the whole thing. And so that's woven roving, and then we have a consistent 2 layers on top, 2 layers on bottom of chopped and 1708. So it creates it to be a heavy duty hatch at that point. Super rigid. Hatches do differ from the hatches that I make compared to the factory hatches. They do not use this core material. The core material that they use is a lot cheaper, and it actually absorbs moisture over time. This is completely closed cell. This is HDU. And so with that being said, is your hatches won't fail on you due to moisture absorption like the factory Ranger hatches would. Alright, after you got all the latches bored, now we can install the pistons. I'll show you guys on how to do that. What I do to mount these now, so I took the factory hardware off of the boat. The easiest way you can do it is just measure the existing hatch and reuse those dimensions. Otherwise, what I normally do, something like this is pretty simple. You want to stay away from this edge, because this is where it rests on the gasket right there. And then also, so you want it to be past that. But when you mount it, you have to figure out, I need to stay away from that bottom edge enough for this to close. But then also, if we angle this too much, your hatch will only open up that far. So what I normally do is get it close with one rivet, and then you can adjust it and pivot it from there. So you can see here, now I can rotate this up however I want, extending that piston more. And then now I can really adjust it to get it to be completely 90 degrees, straight up and down without hitting the side of the boat. So now this is good to go to put the next one in right there, and then we'll be completely done. So just like that, now we have a completely functional hatch, and it closes properly because we are away from that line, as you can see right there. Just mounted this one, it works perfectly. You can see there. One thing to note is you don't want to bring this piston too close to this juncture here. So we want to stay low. You see that gasket line? We want to stay low, but we don't want to go farther up this way, otherwise there's not enough room for this piston to actually work. So that's why we're low and farther away, to ensure that the piston will close and retract enough to not bind on itself. Alright guys, so we are now on to the Aquatraction installation process. I'll go through everything that is inside of your kit. Here's what will be included in the kit. You have your 6mm Aquatraction. This consumer went with a borderline pattern, and then you have your 3mm. So this is an upgrade option. I would highly recommend using the 3mm protection pads. It's not that much more in the grand scheme of things, but it makes it look and function so much better. After the entire boat is cleaned on all surfaces, including all of the wells, we are now applying Primer 94 across all the surfaces. So we got this main surface and then even these surfaces here. So also prime this along with all of the hatches. If you do spill some over the edge, like this edge here, you can easily just wipe it off with some Windex. It comes off relatively easy. And so now we're going to start installing Aquatraction. There's, as you can see on the PDF, the order kit, there's going to be 3 pads, 1, 2, 3 here. And so it's best to just start with something that doesn't have anything that butts up next to it. So 1, 2, 3 pads, there's going to be 2 junctures on it. What I would do is maybe start with a hatch, just to ensure you got the process down. So like this one here, it comes with a paper backing, pressure sensitive adhesive. What you can do is score the paper, fold it back 2 inches, fold it back 2 inches, and then flip it over, and then position it accordingly. So just like this, we scored it and we exposed the adhesive. So now we can take this. The benefit with having it folded like that is it stays off of the surface. So now you can move it around, position it accordingly, and then tack it down right in the middle. Now we have it tacked on the glue. So now we'll just peel this extra paper off and then slowly just start working it down this way. You don't want to like stretch and pull this. You just basically want to peel that paper off and go straight up and straight down with it. Just took that paper off. We just want to go straight up and straight down with it. Just like that. and then we'll just repeat that for the other side. Just like that. So we have our everything installed, all the edges are pushed down. We are going to install the entire boat and then come back and then use a roller that's included in your kit and roll out all of these pads. All right, so we're just gonna do the same thing. I scored the back of it already, so now we can move it around, get everything lined up accordingly, tack it, peel off the paper, and then install it. I have the middle tacked down now. I'm just going to peel off the paper, straight up, straight down. So paper's off, straight up, straight down. Just like so. So we're just gonna replicate that for all the hatches. These are easy, nothing butts up to them. And then we're going to come back and install the front deck. So just got done installing the surrounding hatches. Now we're going to tackle the front deck. The same concept, we're going to score this. I like to score it right where kind of the focal point is. So we'll score it right here, and then we'll take the other two pieces and score them as well. Right, so we scored the back of it. We're just going to align. This is the main piece. We're just going to align this and tack it in place using just this area. We're not going to peel off both sides yet until we get this one tacked, and this one tacked. I just lightly tacked this one in place, and now we're just going to replicate it on this side and on this side. The reason why we're tacking them down is we can always peel them back up carefully, and so I just lightly tacked that edge just in case if this one doesn't quite, if this pad's crooked, we can still peel it back up, reposition it, put this one in, and so then everything lines up. So now I tacked this one down. We are going to align this one and tack this one down. What I'm looking for is having a straight edge all the way up the seam line. Because your eyes, you want to start where the most common area is to be seen. And so like this here, we made that perfectly all the way around. That's a focal point. Your seam lines are going to be a focal point. So we want to position everything so if you do have an area that doesn't quite match or fit perfectly, it's going to be hidden and you can't see it as well. We got all three pieces tacked. They all fit really nicely. We are always going to start with the center one. So you have to keep in the back of your mind, I'm going to peel the paper off. I'm going to go straight up and straight back down with it. Straight up, straight back down. So now we have the Aquatraction installed, right? Seam line, the focal point, seam lines, focal point. So we're all good to go now. So after you have all the 6mm Aquatraction installed, we are now going to start installing the 3mm. So we opened up all the compartments. If some don't have pistons, just use a piece of tape, keep it open. The 3mm Aquatraction protection pads, we are going to just now, it's basically like putting a puzzle together. You can see on the PDF where most of these pieces go, but just line everything up and then make sure they fit before you start installing. Now we have the 3mm just lined up. Now we're going to do the same exact thing. We're going to score the paper in the middle. Tack, 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 and then come back and then fully install everything. Now we have this section tacked down. We don't need to do the rest of the boat just to install this section. So we have everything tacked in place. Now we'll just peel off the paper backing on both sides and install it like normal. Like that, with everything tacked in place, we tacked everything down really nicely. So after we installed it, we applied pressure. So this is pressure sensitive adhesive, PSA. How it is applied is it remains tacky, but you need to apply 15 pounds of pressure across all surfaces to ensure proper adhesion. The purpose of the 3mm protection pads is if I ever shut this and the hatch hits the boat, which is pretty seldom, just how we design these new hatches, it actually protects the boat and the hatch itself. Have a white boat, this is a black boat, but say if you have a white boat, you'll see on this gap white shining through, and with having these black hatches, it It's for aesthetics as well, so you don't see a white gap right here. You see a black gap surrounding all the edges. We're going to use that same concept on the rest of these pads on this side. Just like that, the boat is 100% done. So, latches all work great. Pistons work great. So this is what I was talking about. If the hatch ever comes into contact with the protection pads, it doesn't mar the hatch and or boat up. And just like that, boat is 100% done. So to recap, we gutted out the entire boat, removed all carpet residue, cleaned it with lacquer thinner and Windex. After we did that, we installed brand new fiberglass hatches, all 6 of them. Once we got all that done, we then installed the Aquatraction that came with the kit, and then put latches and pistons back in and rolled out the entire boat. This is the roller that will come in your kit. What we need to do is apply pressure along all of these surfaces. So 15 pounds of pressure on all surfaces in the boat. So you'll do that for all of these pads. If you do come across an air bubble, it's not super common, but say if there's an air bubble trapped underneath a pad, say right here, you can take a needle and poke the hole inside of that bubble, release all of the air, you can hear it come out, and then just slowly keep working that air bubble out until everything is completely installed. I'm going to take this roller now and roll out the entire surface of all the Aquatraction pads that we installed. The 3mm is tight with getting the roller in there, and so I normally just use my hand and push everything down. So 15 pounds of pressure across all surfaces.